Here we are, the last day of Crucial Con. Hey, it's Jimmy Coffin for Coffin Comics. I'm here with the one and only cosplay superstar, Ireland Reid. Let's bring her on. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun during these 3 days of Crucial Con because a lot of crucial information dropped. And
so much stuff has dropped. I'm so excited for 2021. It was like you guys just got done doing this amazing Lady Death Kickstarter, getting ready for this huge Hell Witch Kickstarter, and then you're like entering 2021 and like bam, you don't know if Coffin Comics you will. And I absolutely just love the energy that radiates from you guys. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. But it all comes from down top. Brian Pulido is the lightning rod that's just like sends his energy throughout the whole company. So it's amazing, amazing to work with Brian. So speaking of Brian, how did you meet Brian Pulido?
I was one of those creepy people at a con that was just like, oh my God, I've read these comics. I've like so inspired by Lady Death, coming from the strong mother, very alpha dominant type of personality. I always wanted to find characters that were similar because that's kind of the person that I am. And so instantly found after, going through heavy metal and watching those movies, found Lady Death in the comics. And I was like walking around a convention about 5 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, holy crap. Like, cause it's a whole new world for me, not growing up with conventions, to be like, this is the guy that created this, like, holy crap. And I was so nervous. It was Silicon Comic-Con Valley, so whatever, probably about 3 years ago. And I remember walking up to him and Francesca, and I was just nervous. I think I was dressed as Black Cat. I was a guest there, and I was like, can I cosplay Lady Death? Are you guys okay with that? And Francesca's like, yeah, of course. And Brian's like, sure. And I'm like, I just wanted to ask just to be polite. And finally, last year, I was able to put it together. It took a little bit, but it was definitely, it was amazing to be able to do that. So that's how I met Brian, was just going up to the booth and was like, I'm a huge fan, which he probably hears all the time. But I was like, no, seriously, I'm like a huge fan. So this is amazing.
So that cosplay, is that the same one that we see on the covers for the Kickstarters, or is that something you did a different version of the?
I actually shot it twice. So you'll see it the first time is with there's the coffin that I built for this, and then there's a time where it's just me shooting there with a backdrop. So there's a couple different times where I've shot it, only twice though, because it takes a while to put all the body paint on, which I'm pretty sure if you guys are following, you guys see Sapphire Nova try to put all that on yesterday. So it's a process.
How long does that take you to put that on?
I usually airbrush myself, so it's about an hour and a half.
That's dedication.
It is dedication. Once I go into a character and once I start it from basically ground zero to complete, I'm in it to win it. So we're either going to balls to the wall, do everything, or we're not doing it at all. So as you can see. So folks, I don't know if you joined us there during that was the Lady Death Malevolent Decimation Kickstarter, and that was the first cover. Repeat. That was the first cover you did. A different side of Lady Death that you don't normally see. No, this was actually homage to, was it Eric Basaluda's cover? Or was that the? It's actually Richard Ortiz cover.
Richard Ortiz, yes. Which was a sold out cover that I think we still had a print, but yeah, that was really fun. How did you come up with that idea to do the?
There are books that I have, like, just that I absolutely love the cover art and styles of it, and I was like, this needs to be done. Nobody has done this. I like doing ballsy stuff, and I'm like, look, I've been training for years. I'm going to fucking do this. And so I was like, here we are, we're doing this. And so literally it was like, that's why it took me about 2 years after I told Brian I was going to do this, that it actually did it. Cause I'm like, I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to recreate this cover. It's going to be spot on. And that's how it is. So I was very excited.
No Photoshop on this?
The only Photoshop you see is I enhanced the red on the nails a little bit, and the gold on some of the skulls needed to be a little touched up. They had white on them, but other than that, that is a competitor pose. If you see a competitor on stage, they're literally halfway forward, shoulders all the way back. It's a huge arc, and you have to stand like that. And that's where you usually can tell like the glute and hammy separation. So the bottom of the bum to the back of the leg, they look for muscle separation, and that's the pose that requires it. And that is hard to hold.
And did you
imagine holding that while doing a timer on the camera? It's just like, oh my God, it took so many takes, but it was so worth it.
So you did fitness modeling professionally? Is that what you're saying? Or is that?
I've been in the fitness industry for a very long time. So I used to compete a while back. We're not going to date or say anything, but a while back. And fitness is just my lifestyle. So I'm at the gym 6-7 days a week. I have a trainer, strict diet. I'm in it to win it, like I said. So yeah, it's a process. It's definitely a process for it. But the cover turned out great. Great.
Speaking of covers, and then we had the next one we did was for Treacherous Infamy. That was the other Kickstarter cover.
Such a good cover.
So the amazing part, so not only do you cosplay, you also costume design and you prop build. Is that correct?
Yep. I do everything. I build all the props, the backdrops, the settings, the costumes, the makeup, the wigs. It's pretty much from, like I said, ground zero to end product is all me. So it is a lot. It is a lot.
And speaking of that, so you're also on Sworn Nation, and I found these pictures on Sworn Nation, the Coffin Comics Facebook group.
I love that group. I love it.
Right. If you're not on it, folks, you're watching this, join it right now. Facebook/Sworn Nation, I think. I'm not sure how you find it, but you'll find it on Facebook. But you posted these pictures here. You working on that casket?
Yes.
Where is that? Is that in your garage, or is that a storage unit?
That is the very back of my garage. So my garage is like 20 feet long and extremely narrow, and you can barely fit a car in there. I think it's about 9 3/4 feet wide, so it's pretty narrow. And this is me at the end by the door, just so you get the air going. You can see me spray painting this, actually, the base of it.
And then you had before you were just testing out the making sure you cut it correctly. And
well, there's a story with this. So I have to do a lot of, I guess, equations, fiddly bits, mathematical things for my normal job. And I just don't like doing that when I'm creative. I can eyeball usually things down to the millimeters. And I literally was like, I'm going to build this. This is how I want. No measurements, no nothing. I went into Home Depot, literally asked the guy, hey, can you do me a favor and cut the boards around this size? And he was like, what? And I'm like, just trust me, please. And it was like 8:30 at night, like 30 minutes before they closed. And he was like, okay. And then he got done cutting them. And I'm like, can you do me a favor? And he's like, what? I'm like, I'm going to lay down on the ground. Can you outline these the way I need it to? And he was like, excuse me? And I'm like, dude, seriously. So I actually did this pose on the floor in the middle of Home Depot. It's actually on my IRL Instagram. You see me just laying on the floor. And he's like, what are you building? I'm like, a coffin. He was like a coffin to put a body in. I'm like, yeah, it has to fit me in it. He goes, that's the most morbid but awesome thing I've ever heard working here. So the measurements were fine. And then I just went home and made sure just to miter off the edges so they lined up perfectly. And this is me on the floor getting ready to make sure, okay, yep, this is still good. I'm still happy with this. Now let's miter these little angles and let's go to town. So
yeah, and then
there we go.
So you secured it right there. And this is another photo of the. So is that the back, or is that? Did you?
That's the back piece. That is the back piece.
So did you make a lid?
I did not make a lid for it. I like it to be open. There's the thing in California, though, where if you want them to deliver you a piece of plywood, right? 10-foot plywood, not a big deal. It's $100 per one board. And if you want a truck to actually be able to haul the plywood, it doesn't fit in any garage. And the parking spaces out here, I mean, you got to pay for 2 parking spaces to have a truck. I came out to California on a truck with like having a truck. So I'm like, okay, I can't have a truck in California. It's just impossible. So that's why you see you'll see a couple of 2x10s just kind of narrow. There's 3 pieces on the back. Well, technically there's 3 in a sliver. And then you'll see a bunch of 2x4s going across horizontal just to reinforce it there. And that is literally how I made the back piece. So it took a little finagling, but it worked out fine.
Yep.
Plus the extra added weight of the 2x4s towards the bottom actually kind of helped counter the weight a little bit, so it would sit straight up with no issues. With me standing in it, obviously.
And then you hand stitch the.
Well, if you're gonna make a coffin, it's got to look legit, right? So that means, okay, we're not gonna get too morbid, but I've had like 3/4 of my family die, so I paid attention to the inside of coffins, oddly enough, and I know that's pleated. The material is pleated, so I went through and hand stapled. Obviously, you can see I lined the sides with foam. I got to make it nice and pretty, and then I hand pleated the side of this crushed velvet just to make it look legit. Because I mean, you gotta make it look like a real coffin, or why?
So
you
where
make
is? Okay, there's a process there, and then so where do you still have that coffin? Is that sitting in your house right now?
I do. It's in my garage. It is in my garage. I know it sounds morbid, but it's in my garage. If you actually check out where I'm doing the progress photos, you'll see that I actually put memory foam down on the bottom of it, so I could actually lay down and it would be comfortable. So
Doesn't have a coffin in their garage. Come on.
I know. Who wouldn't want one with memory foam either? See, that's what I was saying. I should have had mine put up here.
So I bring that up because you're more than just a pretty face. You have, you have the skills. You've got obviously the personality. Because checking out your YouTube channel and seeing you're trying to do education for folks. The crafting, the woodworking. So how did it all start? How did you? Because obviously you seem like a very interesting character. So.
If you couldn't tell, besides the monstrosity of nerdness behind me, I'm a very multifaceted, different type of unique person. I was
also,
raised.
you don't have a California accent.
I don't have a what? I'm sorry.
California accent.
No, I'm Midwest, raised and born. I'm a farmer's daughter. I was born and raised on an agriculture and livestock farm. I've been working since I could walk, pretty much, from bottle feeding calves to collecting eggs to harvest season. I mean, there was always so much to do. And I pretty much grew up with 5 uncles and 5 brothers. So there was nothing really girly that I was ever exposed to. So I pretty much grew up as a grease monkey. I was on tractors doing harvest, plowing, tilling. I was underneath working on cars. I mean, you got to learn to fix everything. I'm a certified MIG welder, so I paid for my undergrad and college welding. So
that's where you got your work ethic from on that farm.
Work ethic would be how I was raised growing up. We were super poor farm family, just struggling to make it work. And, teamwork makes, the dream work. So we all had to chip in and do our part. And, if we wanted something, we had to go out and make it or figure out how to build it. And that's where the tinkering and the engineering comes from. And, I like building things. I like creating things. And I love things like cars, and it's just, it's the tinkering aspect. I love it. So I still tinker.
So how'd you get into the costume building? So it looks like you didn't do much of that on the
my grandmother was a seamstress. So pretty much all my clothes growing up were refurbished, clothes from my uncles. So she would just add girliness to it by adding a few bows or some lace to it to make it seem like it was something girly, for the most part. But yeah, she taught me how to sew. My mother sews, because you got to learn to stitch up clothes. It's not like we could go to the store and buy anything. We were an hour and a half away from the nearest town, so we were pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And so getting into doing costumes and stuff, I knew quite a few fitness competitors who needed costumes for their competition. And so I would just sew and make custom orders. I did a bunch of stuff for the EDC dancers. So a bunch of huge, big costumes, like Vegas style costumes. And it's just stuff that I would just do on the side. I'd come home from work and have a fucking stressful day. And I would just be like, all right, I'm just going to do something creative so I don't lose my damn mind. And that's just kind of how it started. I was approached in 2014 by another independent comic publisher who was like, hey, can you make some costumes for our girls at the booth? And I was like, sure, okay. I don't know what you're doing, but I've never heard of a convention before like this. So I was like, sure, I'll make it. So I made these costumes, and when I went to go deliver them, it was for Stanley's Kamikaze at the time. They were like, yeah, one of the girls didn't show up. Can you step in? And I was like, you want me to wear my own stuff at this type of convention? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So I remember walking in and I was like, this is a convention. People like the same shit I do that go to these things. Are you kidding me? This is a real thing. And then it just kind of went, exploded from there. So it's pretty cool.
That's fascinating. Okay, let's take a couple questions here. First of all, from Chris is asking, are those
chocobos? These are all chocobos and Moogles. So they are from a Final Fantasy is life, pretty much. And so there is Advent Children. There's all these chocobos that are lined up there. And there's actually, you'll see that I have a bunch of figures in here. I've got Cloud and all these little few more chocobos and stuff in there. So I have a lot of Final Fantasy collection. It's a video game.
Did you have chickens on the farm?
Yes.
Were chickens your friends?
Animals are always my friends. I love animals.
Okay, William wants to know, how much do you squat?
How much do I squat? Why is that always a question? I do know when I know, right? Well, I will tell you, when I leg press, just warming up is half a ton. So if you want to know how strong my legs are, they're pretty strong.
Damn.
About 500 to 550 would just be my warm-up sets on the leg press. I think my max was at 625 before I started doing a cut. So imagine what my squats are. You're welcome. That Richard Ortiz cover does not get made overnight, guys. Let me tell you what.
So what's your favorite? I guess we only have the two right now. Which one was your favorite?
That I've done? Oh, I love the Richard Ortiz cover just because I love doing kind of like the saying thank you to the artist who drew these things. And, you know, I know they just draw it because it's something they envision. And I love to be able to take what they envision and bring it into real life. So that one out of the two is probably my favorite one. Even though I worked so hard on that damn coffin, and I'm absolutely so proud of the latest cover that came out. It's just one of those things where I just love to be able to show my appreciation to the artist who actually drew stuff. So I love recreating that stuff for real life.
Here's a question from Bob. What was your first comic you ever read as a kid?
Oh my God. I would definitely have to say the first comic would have been an X-Men comic from Marvel. I think it was one of my cousins had it laying around and I was like, what is this? And instantly just kind of picked it up right then. Comics weren't really a strong thing where I lived. They weren't in libraries or anything like that. So they didn't live anywhere near me. So when they came to visit, I was like, what'd you bring? What comics did you bring? And it was always X-Men, Marvel related. So it kind of just started to be a rolling tumbleweed after that.
Do you remember any of the characters that stuck out? Do you think you...
And X-Men? Oh, yeah. I definitely... Wolverine was always one of my favorites. Always Wolverine. And then, of course, Emma Frost and Rogue were some of the top ones as well. So, and I absolutely love Phoenix. Love Jean Grey. So definitely that was a lot of fun. So yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you mentioned in your bio you have gaming skills. So what games are you skilled at? Which video games?
Nunchuck skills, computers hacking skills. No, I'm just kidding. Skills I have in video games. Wouldn't say it's really a skill. I would say I need to see anger management therapy. I do a lot of RPG games, so I love doing a lot of that stuff. God of War, hands down, was seriously one of my favorite games ever. The new Final Fantasy remake, again, these are all RPGs, which is extremely well. Currently wrapping up Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I love it. So definitely RPG based, not really MMO type of first person shooters type thing. So not so much anymore. So I kind of like single player RPGs. So
it seems you're too busy to playing games. That's so you just find time to.
I make time.
Make time.
I go to the gym at 4:00 in the morning, and then do a whole day's work of, normal boring adult job, and then I make time. Always make time for games. So.
Okay, another question for you. Are there any other Coffin characters you'd like to cosplay?
Absolutely, and coming soon, I will tell you that. So there are some amazing characters, always by Coffin Comics, and I'm currently putting them together. So you'll have to wait and see.
Oh, here you go from Donnie. Who's your favorite Final Fantasy character?
You're killing me. You're killing me with this. It depends on which game. obviously Moogles and Chocobos are my absolute favorite little side companion. Oh man, you're gonna make it hard for me. I really like Tifa. This is a really hard question because it obviously depends on the different types of games. So I don't know. Like Tifa, but I thought Ignis was funny in the last one. So it just depends. Just depends.
Here's one from Jeffrey. His question: love the covers. Do you make costumes for other people, or is it strictly?
Thanks, Jeff. I used to make costumes for other people, and then I decided to no longer do that. I'm such a perfectionist on the ones that I do that trying to do some for other people is kind of like being the mother of dragons. People have their own vision of what they think costumes should look like and what they should be, and they want you to do it on a $50 budget. Honestly, I wish costumes were $50. Just that coffin alone cost me $1,000. So just because I went out, I had to buy specific, tools and saws and everything else, which I wasn't able to bring with me when I moved to California. So I had to pretty much restock my whole workshop just for that. So costumes can be expensive. I think on the average, it's probably about $500 to $1,500 per costume is what it cost me in terms of supplies and time. Dang. So I don't really make them for other people as much because you got to think you also got the body paint. You got all these things factor in. You got to do this and time that it takes to build it. Like the coffin took 2 weeks, averaging 3 to 4 hours a day. So it's just, you got to factor in all those equations with it. So it's an expensive hobby for sure. So I don't really make them much for people anymore, honestly.
So Jason wants to know, what's your favorite costume you've made?
Favorite costume? Probably my Melina from Mortal Kombat. And that's the Mortal Kombat 9. It was an exact artwork replica. So every stitch, every pattern, every design was literally straight from the game and the art itself from the artist. There are no buttons, no zippers, no snaps, no nothing. To get in that is all one piece leotard face mask and everything. And it's literally the fabric doesn't stretch. So I'm literally pressed into it to get into this. I cut and dyed my hair to shoot and unveil this cosplay. So it was definitely, I would say, the one that almost broke me. Like I about just quit doing cosplay in general. It was a tough one to do, but it's my favorite hands down. So plus I also played video games growing up, and Mortal Kombat was one of my favorite ones to play. And Melina was always my favorite character in Mortal Kombat 2. So I love my Sega Genesis. It was amazing.
Here, let's just share your website here real quick. So you come a long way from the cornfields of the Midwest, and you've done some great, amazing cosplays.
There's some that I did covers on. So there's Vampirella. There's I did obviously Vampirella, Red Sonja. So you'll see a few covers down there. Just a couple different things. So
Elvira, that was awesome. You had a Freddy Krueger one, which stood out to me. I love that one. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. That was a Bishoju statue version, and that was another replica right on thing with it. Now, some costumes I will sell for those that are like interested, and I don't. Maybe they don't fit anymore. Maybe I can't alter them anymore, but sometimes I will do that. But other than that, you'll see some of the comics that are up there that I have left in my store. So it was pretty cool.
So what would you say was the biggest challenge? You mentioned like that one costume almost wrecked you and you're like, I'm out of cosplay. What was the biggest challenge for you to keep going, and how did you overcome the that adversity? That was there ever a time that you were like, that's it, I'm throwing in the towel, I'm moving back to the farm? Then you overcame it.
There's been many times where I'm like, honestly, I'm like, the fuck am I doing this for? What the hell? I'm literally paying 5 times the amount in rent for 6 times the amount smaller of a space, trying to make this stupid scene line up on this. What the fuck? Literally, what the fuck? But I don't like not being able to finish something, and I don't like it when something gets in my way that prevents it. So if I'm working on something, I'm going to finish it, come hell or high water. And if anything gets in my way, it's holy terror. I'm a natural ginger, so I have a hellacious fucking temper. And it's just one of those things where I will finish this. And if I feel like I just can't go any further, I'm just like, hell no, we're going to push more. And that's just what I do. So I do it in the gym. I do it my normal job. I do it cosplay is building stuff. That's just my life mentality. So kind of aggressive approach, but I'm kind of just a eccentric, aggressive person, I guess.
So it's like the fear of failure that you're just push it through. You have a drive that just keeps you going no matter what. It's just like this fire that
it's not really failure, because failure just tells me that this path doesn't work, but there's 6 other paths that I can take. And so it's just finding the right path to make it work. And I'm okay with challenges like that. I just don't, the fact of not finishing something or something that I've already started and like invested into, it's just not going to happen to me. So
nice.
I'm like, we will finish it. I have to finish things. Like I have to finish projects. I have to just finish stuff. There is no other way. This is only the way.
Yeah, like a shark. There's only forward. Yep. There's no going back. It's just going.
No, I straight ram it. So we're going head on, balls to the wall. Yep, that's it. Tavala.
What was the most challenging? Well, I think you might have mentioned that. What was your favorite cosplay that you've done so far?
My favorite cosplay that I've done is my Elvira. Honestly, I love Cassandra. She is such a doll. We've done movie premieres and stuff together. Absolutely. I don't think she's up there, honestly, on the website. You can find it on the Instagram. I just posted a version. Oh, yeah. So that's the version of her in the coffin, but actually her full original outfit and everything. And I absolutely loved it. I wore it at New York Comiccon last year. She's very punny. I'm very punny. We're both gingers. It's just... we're both around the same height. It's just so amazing just to get out and just be me. I'm naturally punny. I'm quirky. And I'm super witty. And just wearing her was just phenomenal walking through a con. I was in character from the moment I walked out of that hotel to the moment I like walked back into the hotel at the end of the day. Was in full character with the whole hotel staff, the car, like walking into the con, every person at the whole, there you go. Every person at the whole convention, the whole time I was just as Elvira, and it was absolutely amazing. I was just being punny with people's costumes. I was just extravagant. I think this is actually, when I was in Elvira's, when I actually met Richard Ortiz at New York Comic-Con last year. And I'm trying not to fangirl because Elvira just doesn't fangirl. And I'm in character the whole time. And finally, I broke down. And when the con was over, I walked over and was like, Richard, I'm a huge fan. I recreated your cover. Like, I'm so excited. Sorry, I had to stay in character because there's, con attendees, but I just absolutely love it. It's fun. I can just go and be myself, and it was just so natural. So that's one of my most favorite ones to wear. So
Leona was asking, what cover is on your list, top list to do next?
There's so many, not even to mention from Coffin, but there's so many, especially from Coffin. There's one by Art Assassin. I love David that I'm gonna that I want to do, as well as Monty Moore. But there are so many. It's just like there's not enough time. But challenge accepted, right? So you'll just have to see. I'm so excited.
So Bob's asking, favorite movie? First one that comes to mind.
When I do have time to watch movies, I don't know. You threw me off. We're talking comics, and you're asking me to throw in a movie here. Random. I love Pacific Rim.
Oh, yeah.
I know that's completely random, but it's one of my favorite ones. I just like kaijus, and I love the whole point of the Jaegers, and I just absolutely love mechs. So I was like, there should be some Gundams you guys can see in the background, but I think I'm actually hiding them. So I have some Gundam figures and stuff that I build. So I like mechs, so I think it's pretty rad. Nerdy like that.
So why cosplay? Out of everything you could have done, you have so many skills. Why choose focus on cosplay? Why is that the one that attracts you the most?
Well, like I said, I have a normal job, boring job, that pays the bills, obviously, because you got to adult sometime, right? You can't just run around. I mean, you can't just run around as Lady Death every day and just expect food to appear. That doesn't work that way. But cosplay is fun because it combines my engineering stuff from like my day job and things. So the engineering part of my brain mixed with the artistic version of it. and all the challenges in between. And it's fun to do that, but it's also more fun to take the characters that inspired and that you grew up with or that you look to for certain strong, bold personality types and be able to portray them in real life versions. Because you go through your whole life thinking there's no way this type of person ever existed or that they had this cool shit or look like this. And then as you're an adult, you're like, watch me, I'm going to make that become a real thing in real life. And so that's always been kind of my fuel, is creative thing, is like, I'm going to do this because I want to see it in real life because I think this is fucking cool. So I want to do it. So that's just kind of, and it got lumped into the category of cosplay. So I was like, it's the art of costume play. I'm a natural theater, person. I've had theater, been in theater my whole life. So why not? I'm always the villain. I love being the badass villainous type. So let's do it.
Oh, villains are always the best. Yeah.
They're my favorite. They have the most fun.
They do.
They do.
All right.
They're not, I feel like villains aren't restricted by society's normal standards. They don't have to follow this certain societal protocol. You know what I mean? Like, would you ever see a superhero dressed like Lady Death? God, no. She's like, oh my God. I remember when Lady Death came out, they're like, she's not wearing any clothes. You can't read that or look at that. I'm like, why does she have to wear clothes to be justified? She can be butt-ass naked, but she's still strong and fierce, and she doesn't care. And I'm all for that. So I'm totally supportive of that. So that was like, nah, man, I love that. So villains and like strong, bold characters that don't fit regular, boring society norms are my favorite. So
all right, cool. Let's swing it back around to Lady Death. This one you did. So do you have a certain mindset when you're doing these the covers? Like each character is like, do you get into, speaking of acting, do you get into character when you
100% character when I act and do a lot of, every photo shoot I'm in character. So every photo shoot of a character usually takes a day-long process. So it's usually something I do on the weekends, or if my weekends are packed, I'll take a day off work to do it. But you get up in the morning, it's getting into the process. So you got to get ready for that, because the certain time that, because I'm on a camera with a timer in certain short periods of time, you have to be able to push that character out on camera without saying anything. So a lot of these cosplay is just you in the costume, but since you can't act, so you got to make sure that you're posing and everything else speaks for you where you have no voice. And that's why if you see that cover, standing in the coffin is very fierce. It's very like, come at me, bro, like I'm Lady Death. And that's just kind of like how she is in the comics. Like, the fuck are you? And so that's the kind of thing that you want to, have the camera and have the picture speak for you. So it's a lot of acting, it's a lot of stance, it's a lot of posing, it's a lot of facial expressions, it's a lot of practice, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so it does come across that you're having fun with what you're doing. Okay, so we just announced yesterday that Coffin Comics is calling for entries for a global talent search for folks to do Lady Death, Hell Witch, and La Morta. So for possible covers and like everything that you did, you've done it. What is your what would you tell to aspiring cosplayers or folks that are just, if they want to submit to Coffin, what would you suggest that they should be doing to make it the best?
I would say is just give it your all. Like, don't compare what you're doing to what someone else did. Like, don't compare your stuff to mine. Don't compare your stuff to anyone else. Make it yours, make it original, make it creative, and have fun with it. If you're not having fun when you're shooting or trying to do this stuff, then what's the point of doing it anyway? You want to make sure, because like I said, it'll show up on camera. So you want to make sure that when you're doing it, you're having fun with it. And like I said, don't compare yourself to other people. Make it your own. Because that's what cosplay is about. It's having costume play, having fun in costumes. Make it your own. So if you're confident when you do everything and you submit it, it'll speak for itself.
So it seems like on I don't know if you're still doing this, but I did find some videos of you coaching people and letting them know like the process of what you're doing. Do you still do that? Is that still
I do that, and usually I'll put some of that on Patreon and stuff. Usually how people, I mean, that used to be a thing. I used to film everything and show like me hand soldering LEDs and into costumes. I used to show all that process of stuff. And with over the course, I'd say the last 3 years, people really just don't want to see that anymore. Like very few people actually want to see the creative process. I find that the general public they want things like popcorn. They want to see what's next, and if you take 6 months to make a costume, they're like, you're too slow. Everyone else is just dropping stuff. So I still do the behind the scenes stuff. It's kind of like what I posted on the Sworn Nation, just behind the scenes of building the coffin alone. I still do all that stuff, and I will post some of that. I will make collages or put together small videos and put stuff like that on for Patreon. Not so much YouTube, because YouTube doesn't like me. So anything that I post, even if it's just my face up and nothing else, they still kick it off or demonetize it or say doesn't meet age restrictions. So I think I'm pretty much shadow banned on YouTube. So other than that, I post things like on Sworn Nation. I'll post some things on Facebook on the official Ireland Reid Facebook page, and then I'll post it in the Sworn Nation of the Lady Death and all the Coffin comic book characters. So
we got Jay voting for La Morta. He's hoping for that. That would be really neat. That face paint would be really, really fun to see.
A lot of face paint. Takes a lot of time. It's not seriously that complicated. It's just putting together the right environment that you want to create, the backdrop, the pose, the stance, what you want to recreate in that scene, and doing it. So I'm not going to say it's not there. I'm just going to have to say, Jay, you'll have to wait and see. I'll have to wait and see. Can't give you everything.
The Iron Omega hates the great ones.
They do. They don't even like that. I used to order these Japan random snack boxes, and I would try this stuff online, like on video, so you could see my first reactions to it. And some of that stuff was horrible. And even then, I could be in a full blanket wrapped around with a turtleneck, and YouTube's like, you can't put this on your channel. So it's like, why even bother? Why even bother? So
random question. Here we go. King Kong or Godzilla?
Godzilla.
Correct.
Godzilla. Kaiju all the way.
Let's see. Anyone else have any more questions there?
I was like, okay. You can't not pick Godzilla when I say I love Pacific Rim and the Kaijus. I'm always going to go Godzilla. Sorry. His
backstory is a little more entertaining there. All right. What else? Okay. Yeah, I want to ask you. Okay, so you're into the fitness. You call yourself a fitness nerd. What would you say? Okay, so we got the COVID-19 going on right now. What's your number one health tip for all of us who need a little bit of help? What would you say is number one health tip for being a fitness nerd for the general public?
Wear your mask over your nose and your face and wash your damn hands. That's pretty much it. The mask is just because you're dirty, not because you don't feel like you should not be wearing it. It's because you're dirty. You're a walking sack of blood at a temperature of which cancer, diseases, bacteria, and everything else grows. So if you don't think you're not dirty, you're part of the problem. But seriously, just make sure you're washing your hands and wearing the basic covering. So that's no matter where you are, the gym, anytime you leave the house, it's just to protect you. That's all it is.
Here's a good question from Victor. Any characters you won't cosplay?
Any damsel in distress, any Disney princess, anything where it requires konnichiwa, any type of dainty things like that, I cannot do. I remember dressing up as the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, and I literally walked into Phoenix Comic-Con, and I literally, the con has not even started yet. I'm walking through the doors, and a little girl comes up and hugs my legs and was like, "Hi, princess!" And I was like, "Oh, hell no!" Was not prepared for that. Like I said, I've always done villain roles in theater. I've always been, villains and characters. Not a lot of people want to come up to you as. And I was not prepared for that. I mean, I didn't even have a tiara on. It wasn't even a full dress in the front. It was just a big dress in the back. And I was like, all right, we ain't doing this anymore. That was pretty hard. Wearing Wonder Woman at Stanley's Comicology was definitely one of the most hardest things I've ever had to cosplay in public, just due to the fact of a lot of kids run up to you. I had literally parents like, here, hold my child. I'm like, I'm not holding your child. Like, absolutely not. Like, mm-mm. Oh, don't worry. She's just 6 months. No, I'm not holding your child. Hell no. I don't want that liability. Go away. No. So anything damsel in distress, anything like that, no. I'm not wearing a gigantic tutu dress. No, forget it. Not happening. Sorry. There's plenty of other people who do that. Go to the day, you're a walking sack of blood. You truly are. You are a live blood sack, pretty much. I'm very literal. I'm very literal. So that I'll just tell you. I just take facts for Bob.
Yeah.
I have a favorite con.
Back when cons were allowed.
What's a convention again? What is that? What's an in-person convention? I guess should be the question, Alex. So basically, my favorite convention. Oh, that's really hard. I love New York Comic-Con. I love all the cons, but New York Comic-Con is great because I meet a lot of people there. New York Comic-Con was was the biggest con I had been to. Was my first big con, so I know a lot of people there, obviously, which is great. The UK, anytime you go to a UK convention, they're very, as you were asking, they're very technical. They want to know how you build stuff. They want to know how you made it. They're very interested in. They want to know the intricates of things. And I love that. I always take my creative biggest pieces over there because that's what they want to see. They want to see the engineering aspect. They want to know how my LEDs are waterproof. They want to know all this stuff. And I absolutely love that about it. So each place you go to, everyone wants to see something different. And I absolutely love that it's just such a mixed genre. It's just amazing. Or it's just a mix. It's great. It's great.
Oh, have you ever thought, here's a good one from Meryl, Julie Strain from Heavy Metal. Have you ever done that or?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. I can just say, just wait. Just wait.
Stay tuned.
I love heavy metal. I love Julie Strand. All I can just say is just wait. That one's very near and dear. So it might be sooner than you think. That's all I can say.
I can't believe it. It's almost over. You only got a couple more minutes left.
Oh,
so
God.
Why don't you let everyone know where to find you and how they can follow along. So obviously Instagram is one of the spots. Where else should they go to?
Well, I'm a hermit. Usually I don't like to be found. I'm just kidding. Normally, pretty much everything is simple. If you Google Ireland Reid, all my Instagram is Ireland Reid, YouTube is Ireland Reid, website's irelandreid.com. I'm marketing, got that down pat, so you guys can find me anywhere on that. Yeah, so you'll see I have my regular Instagram if you want to see just the cosplay portfolio. And then I have the IRL Instagram, which is actually shows you the coffin builds. It shows you a lot of that stuff. So it's more of the things where I can put the techie stuff, the nerdy stuff, the derpy stuff. I can put all that things on that Instagram and not have to worry about appeasing people, which is nice. My website, if you guys are looking for any signed comics or anything, I usually feature those things on there as well. So...
say we found your Facebook page, so go follow you there. We got all the links to that.
Yep, you can see all those, and you'll see like a lot of prop building. Like I said, I usually do a lot of things on that, so you guys can check all that stuff out for sure. So,
and then you mentioned that Patreon page as well for a little bit more.
Yeah, Patreon, I usually do a cosplay a month. So sometimes it's the large cosplay, sometimes it's a smaller one, but I'll show like the process and the stages of it, break things down, and then, I'll shoot a full set of images and that. So I usually do things like that for Patreon. So sometimes there'll be videos of the BTS of the builds, all kinds of things. So I'll usually put that on there as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're super busy, like seeing everything that you're doing. So thank you so much for taking time for spending your time with Swarm Nation. Everyone loves your covers, so hopefully we'll have some more. We'll see some more in the future, and with the other characters too. We're all excited to see that if the muse inspires you to do that. So thanks again. Anything else you want to say before we head out to Swarm Nation?
Thank you guys so much. But being part of Swarm Nation has absolutely just been the most amazing thing ever. Lady Death was my number one bucket list thing to cosplay. So I'm just so excited that the reaction to her, cosplaying her, just was so phenomenal. So thank you guys so much for all the support and love. Thank you for having me here doing this con for you guys and this panel. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jimmy, for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate everything you and everyone does at Coffin, and Brian and, you know, Francesca. They're not bored of me yet, so thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, your attitude, your killer attitude, definitely, you know, seems to inspire the character. So when you do cosplay, it really comes across. So, you know,
well, yeah,
you
I
are
mean,
one
like,
of us for sure.
What other characters like actually are like into heavy metal? Like, I live and breathe by heavy metal, and so I'm just like, oh, like this is just amazing to me. So I'm like, all
We
the
need to know
leather,
what you're currently listening to right now.
what? Oh, you can't. Marilyn Manson's new album is great, but I mean, I go anywhere from classic White Zombie, you know, Rob Zombie, to Fear Factory, to, it just depends. I mean, there's indie groups, and there's, you know, obviously mainstream groups. It's just, there's so much. But I will have to tell you though, my last concert, sorry for COVID, that I went to was the Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson.
Yep.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It was like, I have goosebumps. It was just fantastic. So I've seen Korn live. I've seen Rob Zombie live. Slipknot. Some of the members grew up kind of close to where I was, you know, grew up. So, I mean, we all close, super close to Iowa. So I'm actually Missouri. So I'm in the north part of Missouri. So you could drive to Iowa in literally an hour or so. But anyway, it's just, I love the music. Absolutely. Like anyone who gets in, like, because I'll do streams, and I'll do like cosplay streams and stuff like on OnlyFans, and we'll talk and we'll go over, like, my playlist will be random, and they're like, holy crap, like, you listen to this type of music, and I'm like, surprise. You cannot love this stuff and not be into this music. So definitely helps.
So one last comment. So yeah, so when I have that music blasting here in my office, everyone's like, whoa. But it's just like, it's like a drill sergeant yelling at you, you know, keep you going, keep you motivated, keep you going, especially in the gym.
And everything. It's nonstop just going. It's like literally 8 hours, and then I just keep adding stuff into it. It's just amazing to me. So
awesome. Well, thanks again, Ireland. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning in and watching this. So now we're going to go to the next panel for Crucial Con 2020. Awesome. Yeah, 2020. Awesome. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.